I need to tell you about a room I checked into 7 years ago. A room that, by every piece of paperwork the hotel had, hadn't been opened in 3 decades. I didn't know that when I walked in. I found out after. This isn't a story I heard from a friend of a friend. This happened to me. And I've never told it the way I'm about to tell it to you now.
The fall of 2009. I was working sales for a farm equipment company out of Amarillo, Texas. Long stretches of highway, small towns, motels that all start to look the same after a while. Carpet that smells like old cigarettes. Ice machines that only work on the second floor. That night, I was 3 hours behind schedule. Flat tire outside Lubbock. By the time I pulled off the interstate, it was almost midnight, and the only place still lit up was a motor lodge just off the old Route 66 frontage road. One of those long, low buildings from the 50s, the kind with a room number painted right on the door instead of a keycard slot. The clerk barely looked up, handed me a brass key, said room 14 was at the end, past the ice machine. I remember thinking it was strange that the key was brass and not a card. Everywhere else had gone digital years before. I didn't think anything of it. I was tired. I wanted a bed.
I got to room 14 a little after 11:40. Put the key in, and it took some work. The lock was stiff, like it hadn't turned in a long time. The door opened onto a dark room, and I flipped the light switch out of habit before I even stepped inside. There was a woman sitting on the edge of the bed. Not startled, not confused. She was sitting the way you'd sit if you'd been waiting a while and had gotten used to it. Hands folded in her lap, looking straight at the door, like she'd heard my key in the lock and had been expecting exactly that sound. She looked up at me, and she said my name.
Danny, you're late. I've been waiting for hours.
I want to be clear. I had never seen this woman before in my life. I didn't recognize her, and she said my name like she'd known me for years. I backed out into the hallway so fast I dropped the key. I didn't shut the door. I just walked, fast, not quite running, back to the front desk, and I told the clerk there was a woman in my room. He didn't even reach for a phone. He just frowned and said, "Sir, that can't be right. Room 14's been locked up for 11 years. Nobody's had a key to that room since I started working here." I told him I was holding the key. He looked at it in my hand like it had appeared out of nowhere. I didn't sleep. They gave me a different room, and I lay there until sunrise. And then I asked the clerk to open room 14 again. I needed to see it in daylight. I needed it to make sense. He was reluctant, but he unlocked it. The room was empty. Dust thick on every surface, thick enough that you could see it hadn't been disturbed in years, except for a single faint set of footprints leading in. Mine from the night before. Nothing else. No bed made up with someone recently sitting on it. No sign anyone had been inside in a very long time. On the wall across from the bed, there was a framed photograph, slightly crooked, glass fogged with dust. I wiped it clean with my sleeve. It was a photo of a woman standing at the foot of that same bed, in that same room, smiling at the camera, like she'd just been caught doing something she enjoyed. It was the same woman.
My father disappeared when I was 6 years old. One day, he left for a sales trip through the Panhandle and never called to check in. Never came home. No car found. No body. No explanation. 30 years of nothing. That motel was on his route. I stood in that room with a photograph of a woman I'd never met, holding my father's name in my hands, in a room that had supposedly been locked since before I was old enough to remember his face clearly. I checked out that morning and I never went back. I never told my mother. I never told anyone the whole thing, start to finish. Until right now. If this one kept you up a little, follow, because there's more where this came from. And if you've ever stayed somewhere that felt like it was already occupied, tell me in the comments.